Welcome to the Decision Lab podcast, the sanctuary for wellness professionals like therapists, coaches, creators, and more who are looking to over-deliver to their clients.
We uncover the truth behind cutting-edge wellness products by going straight to the founder.
We use our backgrounds in neuroscience, chemical engineering, and marketing to ask the hard questions in order to eliminate bias, misinformation, and fancy marketing language.
Allowing you to make better wellness decisions and recommendations for yourself and your clients.
So if you're a leader in the health and wellness space, welcome. This podcast was designed for you.
Join us every week for interviews that will change how you think about wellness.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Decision Lab podcast. Today, we are talking to Rudy Daniel. Rudy is an entrepreneur, a philosopher, and an author. Rudy's journey of self-exploration has led to the creation of innovative tools in the mindfulness space. Rudy is the co-founder of the Affirmate app, a powerful mindfulness tool with short, innovative, and interactive practices that fit seamlessly into daily routines. His deep passion for music, nature, and the mysteries of the universe is reflected in his approach to mindfulness and self-awareness. In his mid-30s, Rudy found himself questioning the deeper meaning of existence, a turning point that ignited his quest for a more profound and meaningful life. This journey led him to explore Eastern philosophies such as Hinduism, Buddhism, Zen, Taoism, while also drawing wisdom from Western philosophy. His deep dive into these traditions shaped a new perception of life, one centered on mindful living and a stronger connection to the universe. Rudy is also the author of Behind the Mask, Beyond the Mind, which delves into the principles of living with greater intention and awareness. Welcome to the Decision Lab podcast, Rudy. We're so excited to have you today.
Thank you, guys. Happy to be here.
Heck yeah. Our first segment, Rudy, is actually one that we don't tell people about because it's a bit of a surprise. So let me share my screen real quick and play this video for you.
Hey Rudy, surprise, surprise. I was asked to mention 3 characteristics that make you special. So I'd begin with authentic, deep, and explorer. And one positive change that you created in my life is obviously Affirmate. So thanks to you and your dream and the vision, you built something so beautiful. So thank you so much.
So tell us a little about who that is and what they mean to you.
That's my very, very good friend and co-founder, Roy. And he's an amazing person. And we have been friends before we co-founded the Affirmate app and still friends to this day. And as you said, it was a very, very pleasant surprise. Thank you for that.
Heck yeah. We like to start off with hearing from those who love you most, just to get a sense for who you are and what you mean to them. So that's awesome. Glad we got to hear from them. All right. So one question I like to ask is, sounds like based on your mid-30s, my friend, this might not be the case, but if I knew you in middle school, would I have known that you'd be here?
No.
No way.
This is the short answer.
Well,
No way.
we're here for the long answer.
I think if you knew me 5 years earlier, you wouldn't know it too. You know, we keep changing and I'm keep changing all of the time. So life is a big, big surprise.
Mm-hmm.
What were you like in middle school, though? Like, what would have been different from then to now?
Well, in middle school, I was mainly focusing on trying to figure out who was I in the societal role, you know, in school, trying to figure out, am I cool? Am I funny? Do the girls like me? You know, I wasn't pondering on the pressing questions of consciousness and reality. Those things were, you know, were not in my mind back in those days. I was just a regular teenager, I would say.
Got it. And then your 30s happened. What happened? I've been waiting to ask you this question since we've done our background research. Tell us a little bit about what caused you to question the deeper meaning of life, like all of that stuff in your 30s.
Yeah. So basically, when I was a child, a very young child, I had a lot of questions about the mystery of life. I remember that before I went to sleep almost every night, I used to ponder about what is infinity. So what does it mean that something don't have any boundaries? So I used to kind of imagine myself going through deep space and trying to find the boundaries of the infinite. And then when I would imagine a boundary, I would say, well, must be something behind the boundary because there is a boundary, so I can make a hole in it and go through it. And I had a lot of mystical experiences as a child, and overall I had this profound view of the universe. I always thought that life is a great mystery and a great adventure. And as I got older, these experiences faded away, and I was drawn to the sort of mundane reality that every adult or almost every adult goes through in Western society, which is school and pursuing a career and family and all these kind of things. And specifically for me as a person, I love to do things fast, break things, move fast, try everything. And by the time I was 30, I was feeling that I was 60, because I've done a lot of things. And although there are variants of those things that I could have done, I could have chased a better career, or maybe I could get more wealth, or maybe I could, be more involved with my relationships. But overall, I kind of felt that I've been there and done that. And kind of led me to a feeling that life is a drag, that every morning I keep on doing the same thing. It's like a rat race for me. And those questions from my childhood, they came back, and I started to ponder on them with fresh eyes, with more tool to unpack the mysteries of questions like, who am I? Or what is this place we call the universe? God, the soul, the ego, all of this. So I think that through adversity and the horrible drag of mid-30s, I found myself. And as you asked me if you would meet me in school, would I be any different? So yeah, absolutely. It was like a very, very steep turn for me in my mid-30s. So by this time, I would begin to entertain these ideas, these philosophies, and I read a lot, I practiced a lot, I experienced a lot. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's all. I'm curious. My background is brain science, so I attack this problem of consciousness and existence from neuroscience a lot. What have you come to? Like, what have you come to any answers? Have you ever, what are your thoughts around, why are we here? What is meaning? Is there meaning in life?
Well, that's a great question, but I feel that we'll have to make a 2-3 hour podcast just around this question. But I would say that, let's not go very deep. Let's just say that once you have experienced some sort of, you may have stumbled upon a mystical experience that kind of created a crack in reality. And through this crack, you could see that life isn't what it seems to be. When you look at life, you suddenly realize that every person sees reality a bit different. And then you wonder, what is the point of view of an animal, and what is the point of view of, different states of consciousness and reality, even through experiences like psychedelics and stuff like that. So I would say that reality is not what it appears to be. And instead of trying to understand what is reality, it is much simpler to understand what it is not. So it is a method that the Hindus practiced for thousands of years, and it's called neti neti. It's basically saying not this, not that. So you start with the experimenting and asking yourself, well, am I the body? And you go through this process, and am I my thoughts? Am I my emotions? And you go through this process and you try to strip yourself away from all the ideas and notions that you have about yourself, just to understand that you know nothing. And from there, this crack in reality that I mentioned before start expanding. And there is a great difference between knowing something intellectually and experimentally. So I'm all in about experiencing life firsthand rather than trying to explain it.
Like that, experience life versus explaining it. Do you have any advice for somebody that was in the same place as you, maybe someone in their mid-30s that's feeling very lost in life?
Well, I will not try to be, some sort of a guru that has an answer for everyone. But what worked for me is asking a lot of questions. I feel like people, when they get to their 30s, they try to establish their ego, their persona as something stable. I am this stable person. I have this idea of what is right and what is wrong. And I have an idea of what is the good life. And I have an idea of what is a good moral standpoint. So I would say start with questioning all of your ideas. Because if you don't, all the perceptions you have, your point of view is going and filtered through these ideas, and you always get a distortion and distorted vision of reality. So to overcome that, question the fundamental notions you have about yourself. And that may lead you to not an intellectual understanding of what it is all about, but maybe it will bring you to a experience of being humble about not knowing, and that will give you the opportunity, the curiosity to explore it once again, as if you were a child. And then brings a lot of joy and a lot of happiness to a person, to be again as a child. And I think it's a great gift.
I love that. Being again as a child. So that in a slight rabbit trail, just tiny one, I promise. When you're saying to be as you were as a child, then do you believe you're born with a purpose, or you're born with a mission, or you're born with a thing that you need to go do? And so you're going, your 30s, you're like, oh, what the heck? Can you go back to being what you naturally knew as a child?
Well, it's hard to say. I think that if you look at reality, you can look at it as an organism, as you would think of an ant farm, for example. So an ant farm, they have a sort of a common intellect, one soul, if you like, and they're driven to sustain some sort of a community and create a purpose. And you're thinking about it when you're looking at it from the side. But if you would take a look from the individual ant point of view, the individual ant would say, well, I don't know about any purpose. I'm just being me. So I'm a warrior ant, or I'm a working ant, or I'm a queen ant. So I think that every individual has its own, I wouldn't say purpose, but I would say some sort of potential for activity. So every individual has this potential. It depends on the genes you have. It depends on the environment you grow in and the circumstances. And through this potential, you can shine or you can just crumble. And in either way, you are serving some kind of a purpose. So a good example that I like to give is I like martial arts, and I used to train, and still to this day train in Muay Thai. So you kind of when you watch boxing or when you watch UFC or any martial arts, you always kind of like the champions, right? You prefer the winners. But if you think about it, the winners are winners because there were losers on the way. So you could say that at a certain point, the purpose of the loser was to bring up the winner to its position. And it would make us all happy to see a champion. But for a champion to become a champion, there must be losers on the way. So your purpose in life, anyway, is to be part of the organism. You are serving the purpose anyway. But for your individual potential, you can shine or you can crumble, and that totally depends on your standpoint.
Wow.
I like that
That is
perspective.
one of the best perspectives I've heard on that, like, ever. I love that. It makes you think of organ systems too, but
Yeah.
continue, go.
What things in your life have helped you to shine? You mentioned, martial arts, maybe like mindfulness, other practices. What have really helped you to transform?
I think that what really helped me to transform was adversity, stress, and pain. And that kind of led me to the point where I was stripped away. Sometimes when you feel a lot of pain, I mean, not physical pain, although it could be physical pain as well, but sometimes when you feel a lot of pain from the inside, lack of happiness, or, lack of fulfillment or anything like that, it could drive you to a point where you're stripped away from all of your ideas about who you are, and then you have a chance to start over again. So that was my chance. I think that in Christianity, it is called the grace of God. So it's some sort of grace you get even from pain. So I got that from that point. And since, all my exploration and my path led me to live a mindful life. And And for me, now life is so rich and profound that I can enjoy basically anything. I can enjoy music, I can enjoy nature, I can enjoy people, conversation with people like yourself, or even if I had bad days, I say, wow, that's a cool experience. I'm angry today. Whoa, what a thrill. So you can turn any event into something substantial if your point of view is mindful living.
Wow. How did you
Oh.
get there? What was your process for mindfulness and getting to this place of, it was when you said, I'm angry today. How exciting. I don't think most people have that perspective. So like, how does one get to that state?
Well, my journey specifically was through the philosophies, mainly the philosophies of the East. I really resonated with Hinduism and Buddhism and Zen, and they have a lot of great ideas to put you in proportion. So, for example, the idea of the yin and the yang, the duality of the world, the polarity of things. So it's a very easy concept to grasp, and it goes something like this. For you to understand something, you must understand its polarity. So for you to understand the notion of good, you must know the notion of bad. And in this way, good and bad conspire to look different, but in essence, they are the same, because if you take one of them, the other one gets stripped away from its meaning. So that's the meaning of the yin and the yang, the symbol when you have the kind of white chasing the black, and you have a black circle in the white and a white circle in the black. So this whole idea of the balance and duality of the world. So if you look at the world as a sort of system that is made of all of these complex dualities, or all of these complex polarities, you would then entertain the question, what is dual to me? What is my polarity? When I look deep down in my soul, like, what is my other side? And through my personal investigation, I quickly came to a conclusion that there is nothing dual to me. And therefore, I understood that the idea of the self, what we call in the West the ego, which is basically some sort of an idea of a personality that we have developed that sometimes feel good and sometimes feel bad, is just a hoax. It's not real. It's just something, just an idea. It's just a concept. And when I delved deeper into this kind of thinking, I understood that I can separate myself. Well, it is quite hard to describe with language, because, I keep referring to myself and myself, which is kind of fun, as if there were two kinds of self in me. But just for the conversation's sake. So from this standpoint, you kind of can look at yourself, I mean, the ego, as something imaginary. And when something bad happens to the ego, you can stand aside from that and say, wow, that's a thrill. Let's see how I react to that. Let's see, what is this, all this stress is about. I feel so, I feel hate. Whoa, so deep. You can turn everything to a joke, basically, from this standpoint.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to play with these ideas, and somewhere along the way, you cultivate it so much that it becomes just your everyday life.
Have you heard of internal family systems by chance? The type of psychotherapy that I'm trained in, and it's they have this concept of self as well, and it's self stripped of your parts and these different things that make you up, and they have a very similar conception of the concept of self and the concept of like who you are, what you are, like, so it's kind of interesting. And you're made of many parts, but there's this one thing that is like the leader or the internal like driver of all of the things. So that's it's just interesting. So I would love to understand how this led to Affirmate. Where does this app come into existence in relation to this journey that we've been on so far?
Actually, that's a great story. It's not very related. Well, it seems not to be, but in the end, it will be. So Affirmate, it started out as a dream. I always had these crazy, vivid dreams from my childhood. And about 3 years ago, I had this dream where I saw the first practice that we initially launched with Affirmate. I saw a mindfulness practice it was so vivid. I could see every detail and how it will work. And I saw the implication of it so that people can engage in mindfulness. When I woke up, I remembered almost every detail, and it was the middle of the night, and I was like going back and forth in my living room trying to figure out, if it made sense and how can I do that. And I was in my tech career, I was working for a company as a CEO, and I had zero time basically to do that. Put it on the back burner for some time. And a year and a half fast forward, I was sitting with Roy, who was back then, that lovely guy that you played in the beginning of our conversation. I was sitting in his balcony and we were discussing dreams. Roy is the kind of person that is also, he was in his tech career, an executive, but he was also very spiritual and mystical. And we had this great deep connection. We were discussing dreams. And I remembered the dream and I told him about the dream, and he was so excited. He said, listen, I think that, that can bring a lot of impact to the world. And so maybe let's do something about it. And I told him, I know as an entrepreneur, we have a lot of ideas. And after some times we think, well, maybe it's not that worth of pursuing. So think about it for a week or so. And next time we'll meet, you let me know. So we met after a week or so, and I asked him, well, did you think about it? And he said, yeah, every single day. And since it was history, so that kind of led to the Affirmate app being real. And it had not a lot to do with my personal journey, but maybe like as a sub context, sometimes things the stars are aligning to your story in life. So that was kind of that kind of story.
Wow. I freaking love it. It's beautiful for what it does now. Like how it was founded is what it seems like it helps people do now as well. Like as a function of the app itself. Was that core to the initial beginning of it? Was that what was the first step that you guys took when you're like, all right, we don't have this dream for no reason? Like what was the first step of actualizing it?
Wow. So maybe let's say what Affirmate is, so the context will be easier to understand. So basically, Affirmate is a mindfulness app that emphasizes short rituals, immersive rituals, and rituals you can really engage with and interact with, not like your regular meditation apps when it's kind of a schooling system where you just need to sit and listen to a guide who will guide you through some session or something like that. With Affirmate, you need to interact with the mindfulness practice. It's usually very short, and we're trying to do it as immersive as possible. So the first thing we did is the practice that I saw in the dream, which was involving a personal item. So we thought, how can we take a positive affirmation and then kind of encode it into the phone? And then when you do the practice, you can use a ring or a necklace and infuse the positive affirmations into the item. So we did a lot of research how to do that technically, and then we went and met with a lot of mindfulness masters like sound healing and all the spectrum of what we needed for this practice. And it was quite a lot of research. And after we were done, we basically went and thought about the experience. So what would it take for a person to be compelled into a mindfulness practice? And I would suggest that the settings are very important. So if we are having some sort of conversation about the mind, it's very different if we're having this conversation in an office, so just on our coffee break, and if we're sitting on some lovely spot in the desert looking at the sunset. Would you agree? So
For sure, yes.
The setting was very important. So we thought, how would we make the experience so beautiful and immersing that you could actually disconnect from your mundane reality and be totally focused in 90 seconds. And this was our first practice where you choose your affirmation, you place your item on the phone, you play, and then you have this beautiful visual thing going on, and your item is being encoded with the positive affirmation. And what it does, after you are done and you go about your day, about an hour or two, you totally forget about your intention, about your practice. The first guy that gets you nervous during the day, makes you forget all of the good things you're investing in yourself. So this item, now the ring or the necklace, it becomes a tangible reminder. So you take a look at the ring and you're like, oh, I had this intention of gratitude, and this is my reminder. So we thought it will connect people to their intentions, to their state of mind. It will be easier to stay grounded if you have some sort of physical, tangible item. And this is the first practice we did with Affirmate. It was the MVP. And now we're just releasing the new update, the new version with a lot more novel practices that no one ever seen before. And yeah, we're super, super excited about it. It's going to be amazing.
Hell yeah, us too. Is there any that you can share? I know we talked about this before we went live, but are there any of the newer ones that you could share?
Sure. So we created the world's first sound bath experience. Do you guys know about sound baths?
Oh yeah,
I love it.
but the audience might not. So give a little bit of an explanation.
Great. So a sound bath is usually a combination of ancient and modern instruments like Tibetan bowls and gongs, and a lot of instruments that are used in the traditions, in some Eastern and Western traditions for healing and therapy and meditation, and all these sounds that will provoke a sense of relaxation, relief, and in some traditions it's called sound healing. In some it's called, different terminologies from different traditions, but we call it sound bath. It's like the modern word for it. So basically what we did is we created an interface where you have more than 100 instruments from all kinds of traditions and all kinds of places in the world. And you can combine these instruments together by just tapping them, and they will play harmonically and beautifully no matter what you do. So you don't have to be a musician for that. So imagine that you're playing with the phone and you're like a band of 30, 40 people playing different instruments, and you can compose your own meditation music. You can compose your own sleep music. You can compose your own sound healing music. You can connect it to your Bluetooth and do a session with the group. So yeah, we are very excited about that, and some of the beta users who have tested it were blown away, and so we're very excited.
Wow.
Super cool.
So who is Affirmate made for then? When you made this, Loki sounds like you made it for yourself, which is amazing. No shade. I love that. But do you have I would love if this person used Affirmate.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think this question touches upon a very interesting thing, which is the idea of mindfulness. What is mindfulness? So if I may, just 1 minute of the terminology, because I think it's important. People usually use today mindfulness and meditation synonymous. So it's like kind of the same thing for a lot of people, and it's not. So what is meditation? Meditation is a very old Eastern tradition that was brought to the West with the wrong context. So in the West, when we practice meditation, when we say, I do my 10 minutes meditation, it will be very funny for someone coming from the East. And the same kind of way with yoga. Yoga in the Eastern traditions is a union. This is the meaning of the word yoga. And yogi is the person who is practicing different methods of union with the universe. So today you see all of these people going with mats around the city and saying, yeah, it's my yoga day. Today is my yoga day and tomorrow is my meditation day and so on. And in the East is the way of life. You cannot have a yoga day. So in the West, yoga is sport, and in the East, yoga is a way of life. In the West, meditation is treated it's like some sort of a gym for the mind, some sort of mind exercise, which is supposed to be good for you. And in the East, meditation is the purest, stripped away from all of concepts, your essence, your being, stripped away from ideas of who you are. This is meditation. And the practice of meditation in the East is going back to this state, is stripping away all of these thoughts, I am this, I am that. But this is done through a lot of cultural context that we in the West don't have. And this is why when people try to meditate, I would say, well, sit around for 10 minutes, close your eyes, sit still, and think of nothing. Good luck with that. You will figure out in a minute or two that you don't know how to do that, and your mind becomes crazy and agitated and like, wow, why are we doing this? Is it cold? Is it hot? My legs itchy? Am I doing it right? Am I meditating? So this is the notion of meditation. And this is why a lot of people get meditation fatigue, as I would call it. They're like, yeah, I did my meditations for a year and now it's too difficult. Well, of course it's difficult. You're not doing it right. You're not supposed to meditate without any context. It's hilarious. So this is meditation. What mindfulness is the backdrop of all of these methods of reconnecting with what is or what is reality through short ritual-like practices. And what I mean by that is you can drink your coffee with mindfulness. And I can give you an experimental kind of view of what it is. So instead of just devouring the coffee because it's good for you and it will make you wake up and be more productive at work. So this is the main function of the coffee today. You can do it mindfully. So what is it drinking your coffee mindfully? You hold it in your hands and you feel the sensation of the warmth of the cup. And then you can smell the aroma and let it play with your senses, with your smelling senses. And then you can look at it and how the colors react with the light reflecting on it. And then you finally taste it and you go with the taste of the coffee, you follow it through your body as it goes down. So what it does, it's reconnecting you to the immediate, intense here and now, which is the crack that I was referring to, the crack in reality that is purely experimental. And it's not something that you can discuss it in words if you're a good philosopher or an artist, but mostly it will get you confused. So instead of that, I'm suggesting to the Western mind, mindfulness is good for you. So for your question, who is Affirmate for? Affirmate is for everyone who is not a master meditator and want to understand the way of mindful living. We are developing short and impactful practices that you can enjoy while you're doing it instead of feeling like it's a chore. I have to meditate. God, it's my 10-minute meditation. What a nightmare. Instead of that, I can play with the sound bath, or I can do like a 90-second something with my item. It's supposed to be fun, You can cook and be in a mindful state. You can walk and be in a mindful state. You can have conversation with your friends and be mindful. And being mindful is just being aware, being present. And for this, I think Affirmate plays the role of the introduction of mindfulness to the Western mind.
That's awesome. I like that. So people that are like fed up with meditation, they're like, I want to be more mindful. What would you say the main benefit? Why do you want that for people? Why do you want them to be more mindful? Like, what has it done for you in your life to be more mindful? I was getting zen just having you talk about how to drink coffee mindfully. So I love it.
The coffee thing was amazing.
Thank you. So I think the immediate benefit is that people today, if you read some studies, kind of shows that the biggest pandemic of the next century and the current century is the mental health. Are stressed out, people are depressed, people are lacking in happiness, basically. So we always have the feeling of lack. And because we have the feeling of lack, we're trying to fill that void with things that bring us happiness, but the happiness it brings is very short-lived. It's like buying a new car. So I had this experience in my life as well when I bought, this beautiful sports car, and I was so blown away. Oh my God, I'm this guy with a sports car. So after 2 months, it was a regular car. That feeling, and it's like that with everything. So we're trying to fill the void of lacking with things that are short-lived in terms of eternal fulfillment. What mindfulness does is create the opportunity of seeing everything as profound. And today I can be walking with my dog, and looking at the tree and be amazed by the tree and how it's beautiful and its colors. And I don't think about the tree as some sort of a mundane background the way I used to before. Now I can see it's very profound, it's meaningful. And, there's a saying that the call of the crow makes the mountain more mystic. So it's the small things in life that gives depth to life, gives the profoundness to life. And when you're living the mindful life, you suddenly realize that life is pregnant with this substance, and the feeling of lack just dissolves and becomes this, like tiny noise of a mosquito at 2 a.m. at night when trying to sleep, just once in a while, but mostly it's great. So I would say that's the immediate benefit of mindfulness.
I like that. And you mentioned some studies and things like that. Have you done any research, or is there any studies that Affirmate has done or that you've done with Affirmate outside of like general mindfulness and meditate or mindfulness research and things?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of research about psychology, the way of the mind. So the mind is very interesting. There's a lot of study around the body, and we know, people go to gym and you have the plan how to make your body with more muscle and how to make your body beautiful or how to make your body athletic. But in terms of the mind, it's like it's very difficult. And a lot of psychologists trying to tackle this question. And what we see as a kind of basic understanding of the mind is that the mind is very suggestive. Have you ever noticed that? Like if someone gives you bad mood in the morning, it impacts you. So you're like very suggestive to your environment. And if someone has a beautiful smile and a smile, suddenly you're happy. So, people impact you in a very profound way. Not only people, yourself too. I mean, you can have a beautiful thought and it will fill you up with joy, or you can have a destructive thought and it will distress you and you would feel awful just by one thought, So psychology today understands it, and it's called CBT and a lot of different other words for that. Basically, what they're saying is every good psychologist will say, well, you have to be positive, and you have to recite positive affirmations in order to make yourself more resilient. It's well known. So we know that the mind is very suggestive. This is the main key of this research. And so because the mind is very suggestive, we are trying to fill the mind with all of the goodies we can find in order to satisfy it, but for the long term. Instead of giving it some a quick dopamine hit, a quick gratification, we're not doing this way. We're introducing mindfulness. And we are making the setting as compelling as we can. So it will be easier for the mind to receive and accept. So this is the kind of research that we've done. And of course, with users back and forth, and we're always striving to understand and to see how people are interacting with Affirmate, interacting with our app. And from there, we're tweaking things to make it even better.
I would be super curious to see, how Affirmate, and especially once you add in the sound bowl healing, like how that impacts people, especially, from an anxiety and depression perspective, because you're really training the mind to be present in the moment. And for me, I struggle with anxiety. And so my mind is never in the moment. So it would be super interesting. Like, do you have any plans to integrate, wearables or anything like that to track the results that people are having with Affirmate?
We have so many ideas, a lot of ideas. And we think that what is amazing about technology, at the moment we are now, a lot of people are asking me, like, what is mindfulness has to do with technology? Now, which is a kind of funny question for me, really, because, there's a notion of spiritual people that renounce technology and they say that technology is Satan, basically. And all spiritual people should wear minimalistic clothes and do not use any technology because it's bad for your whatever. So I'm saying
Mhm.
I'm seeing everything as nature, including technology, and I'm saying that technology gives us the opportunity to connect many people. So, for example, the podcast we are doing now is
Mhm.
the aid of technology. We're able to communicate the message of mindfulness to potentially millions of people. So that's an amazing benefit of technology. And now with technology evolving, we have AR technology and we have wearable technology and we have all different kinds of technology. And we'll see along the way, how can we make mindfulness fit into our already built-in structured behavior in our Western culture. So this is why we're using apps. So maybe if I was a Buddhist monk, I would sit in a monastery and preach, but I'm not. So I'm using the technology to convey this message. So to your question, I hope that we keep evolving with the technology that is emerging, and we will be able to introduce Affirmate in this maybe like AR or something like that, where you can just, put a pair of
Yes.
glasses and suddenly you're on a mountain somewhere in Japan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That sounds very peaceful. What if like let's pretend you had a magic wand and like Affirmate could not fail. What would it look like? Paint a picture of what the world would look like compared to what it does now.
Oh, wow. Uh, we would be very rich, I imagine. But yeah, no, jokes aside, I think that what I have seen and experienced, because I have a lot of people surrounding me in my life that are living this way of mindfulness. And these people have transformed their lives incredibly. And it's a great fun and pleasure to be around people who are appreciating their individuality, celebrating their individuality, and celebrating existence. So when you have people around you that celebrate existence in their own individual way, it is basically art. This is what artists do. So when you live mindfully, you are sort of an artist, and to be around artists is a great experience. So I think that if Affirmate succeed with what it's have to do or what it's aiming to do, we will have a world full of individuals who are celebrating their individuality in a very profound and beautiful way. I hope so.
Wow. What a
I
great
really
vision for the future. I like that.
Thank you.
All right, so as promised, bringing this in for a landing around an hour here. I feel like we could talk all day. I feel
Mhm.
more peaceful and centered just by chatting with you. So I love it. But we got some signature questions we like to ask here at the end when we work with people. The first one is my favorite, and it's what is a question that you wish more people asked you?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that I wish that people would ask me basically interesting questions that would make me ponder, on them for a while. Basically, it could be
Mhm.
about anything, but sort of questions that make you stop. I like to sometimes when I want to make some fun when I'm talking to people, we have this conversation about anything, and I'm saying,
Mhm.
look up for a second. They look up to the sky, and I'm asking them, well, did you notice that we are on a ball in space? And they're like, what? What are you talking about? So yeah, look up. We're on a ball in space and we're in the middle of space. Did you think about it? So these kind of questions I love because they make you stop. They make your
Mhm.
monkey mind stop for a second and think about something very specific. So I wouldn't say that I would like people to ask me something very specific, because then it would be boring, we'll keep answering the same kind of answers. But I wish it would be something interesting that will make me stop and think.
Mhm.
Do you remember the last one that you were asked?
Well, I'm spending so much time with asking all these kind of crazy questions, like me talking to myself. I can't remember something at this moment, but yeah, maybe it will come up in the next minute or so.
Yeah, it's okay. I love those kinds of questions too. So I was just curious if I could get any from you.
Mhm. Okay, the next one is what's a partnership or connection that would really help you outside of them just giving you money?
Yeah, that's a great question for any entrepreneur, I feel, right?
Mm.
So
Mhm.
Mhm.
when we started our journey with Affirmate, we said that what is the most important thing when you're an entrepreneur? The most important thing is execution, not the idea. Not the idea.
Uh,
Don't fall in love with the idea. Fall in love with the path of being an entrepreneur, of doing, chasing your dreams. And we decided that what will make this succeed or fail is the quality of the people we hire and the quality of the people we work with and the quality of people we interact. So every person that we introduce to our team, we looked at his or her professional skills, but also who are they in their personal life, their own integrity, which means what they are doing when no one is watching. So we are trying to assess what kind of people we are working with. And I must say that it worked beautifully. We have today amazing people on our team, and they're just, like these great trees. They keep on providing fruits, and it's amazing. So when we're looking for an investment, looking for people who can get us inspired, who can get us introduced to new opportunities we didn't think of, and people that will overall bring value and feel like they're connected to our mission instead of just, seeing the numbers go up. So I would say, yeah, they must have some sort of
amazing people. I love that. That's a great one. I haven't heard that one yet. All right. The next question that we have for you literally could not be better to be for you. So we have a tradition here that we got from the Diary of the CEO, but every guest that we have leaves a question for the next guest. So we're going to ask you to leave a question here in a second. But the question that was left for you was from a stress researcher. And the question they ask is, what's your opinion about stress management? And how do you manage it? How do you measure it? Sorry. Like, what activities affect stress the most? Like, we blame stress for everything, but how do we measure it? Like, what is it? Like, what's your opinion about it and managing stress?
Yeah. Okay. So it's a great question. And I think we can look at it from two different ways. So what is stress and managing stress? So stress is when you have a lot of mind activities at the same time. This gives you stress and overall the uncertainty of the future. So when you have all of these activities at once, you're thinking about all the things at once, and also you're trying to project those thoughts on the future. And from there, you're trying to theorize what will be the outcome. So this is the mechanics, if you like, of stress. Okay, it's pretty simple. So what I would suggest that this is something that is not worth pursuing. I mean, when you have a lot of, and I'm speaking as an entrepreneur now that have all of the time, I have these million things that I have to do and decisions that I have to make. But if I'm in the limbo of a lot of thoughts coming at the same time, and every thought says, look at me, I'm real, this is the time when I feel that I should pause. Every entrepreneur feels like they have to squeeze and drain their energy to get results. But I think that it's the opposite way. I think that when you're over trying, you're just overloading your mind, and eventually you will get poor decisions. So when I have a lot of at once, and I feel that the state that I am now is not very beneficial for me to make decisions, I stop. I stop entertaining those ideas. And sometimes it's counterintuitive because it's look very pressing. Like the question is very pressing. Deal with it now, deal with it now, deal with it now. But no, this is just a trick of the mind. So if I have this internal turmoil, I just stop and let it sink, and I'm not trying to figure out, and I'm not trying to entertain this way of thought that my mind presents, and think of this and think of that and think of the future and things like that, because it's basically, you cannot predict the future. You don't have enough data points. Any of us, we don't have enough data points to understand what the future will be. So the best decisions you can take with a clear mind, when you are more open to your initial intuition, the things that drive you, that makes you feel happy, they are the best decisions. So if I feel that I have all of this turmoil, I just stop. So this is, stress management for me. And yeah, we blame stress, but stress on its own is not an entity. You never met stress on the street, hey, stress, how are you doing today? So it's
Right.
something that we do to ourselves when we surrender to this turmoil of the mind, where, oh my God, I'm in stress. Oh my God, just stop. And if you keep on entertaining the notion that stress creates, you will get more stress, and eventually you will get tired and you will make poor decisions. So my suggestion would be stop, let it sink. Even if you're, this driven entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. The mind works and the mind needs to rest. So sometimes the mind needs to rest. You just rest, and then you will have the ability to make better decisions. So this is stress management for me.
Wow. I like that. What an interesting perspective on stress. Okay,
Thank you.
so my friend, it is your turn. What question do you want to leave for our next guest?
So I'm assuming that all of your guests are also companies and entrepreneurs, right?
Yep.
Great. So I think it's a beautiful way to end the episode, by the way, because you started the episode with my amazing co-founder, which I love very much. And I will end the episode with that. I would say, when you are starting a business, when you're starting a venture, you know that it's going to be a long ride. At least you hope so. If it's just a short ride, you will not make a lot of profits. You will not make your dreams
Yeah.
come true. It's a long ride. It's like getting married. Potentially, it could be 10 years, 20 years, every venture you take. So when you are co-founding a company, and mostly you are co-founding a company because it's very difficult to do it on your own, and I certainly advise find a co-founder. So my question would be, how do you decide who is the right co-founder for you? Who is the right person that will help you build the dreams? How do you evaluate?
Oh, I love
Got
that
it.
question.
How do you decide who the right co-founder is for you? So I would love to hear your response to this.
Yeah.
How did you decide who the right co-founder was?
Well, it brings me back to the point I discussed earlier. When you are evaluating people, you can evaluate them not only based on their skill set and say, Cody is a great, computer scientist and he writes great programs and so, but also maybe, Cody is the kind of guy that is full of gratitude and he lives life with this code of gratitude and he's always have a positive perspective on life. So if we meet problems along the way, I know that Cody's perspective would be, well, how do we solve that from the point of view of being grateful? And that's a kind of great way to assess the person you're going to work with. How do they
Wow.
deal with life? How do they look at life?
Damn, that is a great. I wish I'd asked that about some more of my co-founders previously. Like, that's a great insight. I agree completely.
Well, you're
Cool.
still young. You have a long way to go,
Yeah, 100%. So, well, we appreciate you hopping on and taking some time. I know it's late where you're at, so we'll get you out of here, get you to sleep. But we really appreciate you hopping on. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with, or any place you'd like to direct them?
Well, you can go ahead and try the Affirmate app. You can find it on iOS and Android, and I hope you can leave the in the show notes the URL.
Yeah.
And also, if you want to contact me, you can do it from the website. Currently, me and Roy are answering all of the questions, and if you have any suggestions for us, we're totally open for that. If I have to leave you with one message, I would say always be a student of life. Never position yourself as a master or somebody that understood, because that gets you stuck. Students have no such problems. So always be on the path of learning. And thank you so much for having me. It was like beautiful to talk with you, and I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you so much. And if you guys haven't already, like and subscribe on YouTube, please do. And we'll see you guys next time on the Decision Lab.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.